Hi everyone. I'm Zaman Nazar. I'll be teaching political science basically. In Denova Academy. It's our day one of the daily dose series that is related to political science, right? In today's class, I have chosen one of the a very basic question, a very basic MCQ question to discuss with you all, right? So as you all can see in the screen, it's a 2020 A level part one paper. So as you all are already aware now, there are 30 multiple choice questions in political science for the part one, coupled with 20 short answer questions, right? So that's how the part one paper works. And the part one paper is for 100 marks as well, right? So today I have chosen the second question of 2020 A level part one political science paper, right? So this particular question is related to the very first unit of your political science syllabus, which is Introduction to Politics. So it's a very simple and direct question that they have asked. Studying politics. So they haven't described the question very directly. They have just mentioned studying politics. So you all should understand the question first, right? So they are asking here, what is the meaning or what is included in studying politics, right? What is included in studying politics? This is the question that they are asking from this second number two question, right? So they have given 5 answers, obviously. So that's the general format. So in here, the first answer, which is studying politics, is limited to philosophical and comparative approach, right? So I'll just highlight this philosophical and comparative approaches. So what is the other keyword that should be highlighted here? That is, it is limited to, right? So if you all have started studying the very first unit, you all know, obviously, yes, studying politics includes different approaches, right? So approaches is a main part in the first lesson itself. So you all know by now, there are different various kinds of approaches to study political science. So for an example, what are the approaches? Approaches or ways of studying politics, right? Ways of studying political science. So there are various ways or various approaches that you will be studying in the very first lesson, right? So number one is obviously the comparative approach. If not comparative, I will go with that comparative approach. So that is number one. Number two, we also have philosophical normative approach, right? Philosophical, or we call it as normative approach. Also, we have scientific behavioral approach. Scientific behavioral. Also, we have a multidisciplinary approach, multidisciplinary. Further, political economical approach, political economical, feminist approach. Kela, there are various approaches, right? Feminist approach, blah, blah, blah. So, according to the first answer, they are saying that studying politics is limited to philosophical and comparative approach. So now we all know it is not limited, right? So here see, we are not limiting ourselves to study political science only or study politics only according to philosophical and comparative approach. Why is that? Because other than the comparative approach and philosophical approach, we have scientific behavioral, we have multidisciplinary, we have political economical, we have feminist. So there are various other approaches to study politics as well. Then first answer is therefore wrong. Why? Because we are not limiting it. We have other various approaches as well. Then first answer is wrong, right? Then rejects empirical studies. The next particular answer or the particular answer relies on this particular principle, when it comes to political science, we have two main approaches, right? One is the philosophical normative approach, and secondly, scientific behavioral approach. So those two approaches are somewhat like opposite of each other, right? So philosophical, also we call it as normative approach. On the other hand, we have scientific, or we call it as behavioral approach, right? So when it comes to philosophical normative approach, keep in mind, it mainly uses something called as normative principles. Normative principles. Normative means value oriented. Haridhar. So normative means what? Value oriented. So what is meant by values means good, bad, good, bad. Then what else we can say? Good, bad, something like that. So good, bad, those are the values, right? On the other hand, we have something called as scientific behavioral. In here, we use something called as empirical researches, right? So these two are the main divisions or main 2 points that you should keep in mind with philosophical normative and scientific behavioral. What is it? Philosophical normative is always connected with what we call as normative values. So normative values means good, bad, no example is coming to my mind as of now, right? So those kind of values. Scientific behavioral is not like that. We are studying scientific behavioral approach based on empirical researches. Researches. So, for an example, we'll say there is a political party. There are two political parties, political party A and political party B. Okay. So, when it comes to political party A, that political party is like a very good party. So a person or the society is saying that political party A is a very good party. Then like they are very helpful. So see, good, helpful. Then what else we can say? Like mm, law abiding, whatever. Law abiding, generous. So all these are what we call as values. Okay. So then what we have done? We have used the philosophical normative approach in order to identify political party A. Okay, philosophical normative, normative philosophical. That's the approach we have used to study political party A. On the other hand, we'll say there is this political party B. Then we are studying about that political party. It means we are conducting a research about that political party. So we can take the political party history. Then also we can take financial records of this political party, membership records of this political party. Then we can ourselves go and join that political party and get first-hand experiences. So based on that, we can come to a conclusion whether that political party is a good party or a bad party. Okay. So in here, what we have done is we have engaged in a research, in a field research. Why? Because we are studying their financial record, we are studying their political record, we are studying their history, blah, blah, blah. We are studying them. We are getting the records down and we are studying them, right? So that is a research-centered study. Those kind of things what we call as empirical researches, right? Empirical means first-hand researches, research, right? So in scientific behavioral approach, we mainly use researches. On the other hand, philosophical normative approach, we use normative values. Just by the outlooks of it, we say, this politician is a good person. This politician is a bad person. But similarly, if we are engaging in a scientific behavioral approach, we should take those politicians' history and study them and come to a final conclusion. So that's the major difference between normative and empirical researches, right? Empirical researches means test, researches. That's it. Okay. So according to the second answer, they are saying studying politics rejects empirical studies, right? So the other key term is, wait a minute, the other major key term is rejects. So are we rejecting empirical studies under when we are studying political science? Obviously no, right? See, why? The scientific behavioral approach, as I mentioned here, as has used empirical researches, right? Then we are including empirical researches when we are studying political science as well, right? So that answer is also wrong there, because we are not rejecting empirical studies. We are including them, right? Then secondly, gives less importance to qualitative data. So another important fact is when it comes to data, there are two types of data. One is what we call as qualitative, and the other thing is what we call as quantitative. So when it comes to qualitative data, it mainly involves normative principles. It means the qualities of people, qualities of a political party. So for an example, there's a politician, he is like really helpful. Then what is his quality? He's a helpful politician. Another one is there, he's a bad politician. What's his quality? He's bad. Right? So that is what is meant by qualitative, quality. Based on quality, we are gathering data. Quantity means the number of data that we are gathering, right? Whether it can be around 100 particular data, 1,000 particular data, something like that. Quantity based, right? Simply that's this difference between qualitative and quantitative. In qualitative, we prioritize the qualities. Quantitative, we give priority to the number of data that we are getting, right? So in here, in political science, it means when we are studying politics, keep in mind, we include both qualitative and quantitative data. Okay, so equally, both qualitative data and quantitative data, we are equally giving importance. Then, based on that, the third answer is also wrong. Why? Because it has said studying politics. Yeah, sorry. So it has said basically studying politics gives less importance to qualitative data. No, no, no. We give equal importance for both qualitative and quantitative data. Okay, so that answer is also wrong there. Then I will leave the fourth answer because that's the obvious correct one. So fifth answer, I'll come back to the fifth answer. Studying politics rejects normative principles. Again, that answer is wrong. Why? Because we already discussed earlier, right? In earlier, I said that in political science, we have two main approaches, which is the philosophical normative approach and scientific behavioral approach. So I said in scientific behavioral approach, we use empirical researches, while in philosophical normative approach, we use normative principles. So in here, in the fifth answer, they have said that studying politics reject normative principles. No, normative principles are included in philosophical normative approach. So therefore, that answer is also wrong. Why? Because we include normative principles when we are studying political science, right? So that is also wrong. Then the obvious remaining answer is the fourth answer, which is the correct answer, right? So we'll go with the fourth answer. Studying politics differs from doing practical politics. This is the basics of political science. Okay, keep in mind, engaging in real world politics and studying political science are two different things. Okay, so this is like the most important part here in political science. Studying politics and engaging in political science engaging in practical politics are totally different. So they are two different things. So in here, then we have politics in one hand. We also have political science on the other hand, right? Political science. When it comes to politics, I'm saying the differences, right? I'm very briefly saying the differences. So when it comes to politics, in politics, the people who are engaging in politics are called as politicians. Okay. So in here, we have politicians. On the other hand, the people who engage in study of politics, if not who engages in political science, are political scholars. Political scholars, if not, we call them as political science students like you and me, political science students, blah, 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 right? So that's the first difference between politics and political science. In politics, politicians engage. So, for an example, our president, our prime minister, our members of parliament, our ministers, all of them are politicians, right? They are not political science students or whatever. So, in politics, in practical politics, politicians are the people who engages. In political science, on the other hand, people like you and me, political science students, political science scholars, political science philosophers, political scientists, all these people are engaged, it means engaging in study of politics, right? On the other hand, another major difference is this is practical. Political science is mainly theory based. That's another major difference. Politics are practical. So, for an example, in politics, what we do, we run a country. It means president runs the country. He governs the country. He makes laws. Parliament makes the laws. President implements the laws, right? So that is a practical aspect. Political science, sorry, politics is a practical aspect, right? On the other hand, political science is mainly theory based. So we learn the theories under political science for your grade 12 and 13. We are not going to implement it practically. So only we are learning the theory and we are going and writing the exam. So that's why we say political science is theory based, right? Then another major difference is that what we can say practical politics, political science. Also, we have theories. Another major difference when it comes to politics and political science. Another most important difference is no need knowledge. Only we need experience. On the other hand, to study politics, political science, we need some sort of knowledge. Right. So simply I can explain this particular difference like this, right? So politicians, so you all know politicians are the people who engages in practical politics, right? Right. So when it comes to politicians, they sometimes, the majority of the time, doesn't have any idea of political science. So even in parliament, there are ministers who have a very less educational qualification. Sometimes they might have not even passed the A levels, right? But still they have been elected or chosen as people representatives. Why is that? Because to engage in practical politics, we no need any knowledge. We need people's support, people's trust, people's confidence. That's what we need to engage in practical politics. But to learn political science, we need some sort of a knowledge. So, for an example, within these 2 years, grade 12 and 13, we are building up the knowledge related to political science. We are learning what is politics, what is the definition of politics, what is the definition of political science, what is meant by state, what is meant by a political party. We are basically learning all those theories. To learn those theories, we need to have a proper knowledge, some sort of a knowledge, right? So that's another key difference between politics and political science, right? So I have given three simple differences between politics and political science. What are they? Politics done by politicians, political science done by political students, political philosophers, political scientists. Politics is practical, right? Political science is theory based. Thirdly, in order to engage in practical politics, we don't need a knowledge about political science. But to engage in study of political science, we definitely need some sort of a knowledge, right? So those are the differences between politics and political science, simply, very briefly. Then coming back to the fourth answer, what they say studying politics differ from doing practical politics. So now, according to the differences we have already learned, Fourth answer is the correct answer, right? Why? Because doing politics is different from studying politics. So again, just to revise you all, we not briefly, we in depth discuss the second particular question of 2020 A level political science part 1, and we'll be uploading this particular MCQ thing continuously in collaboration with Denova Minds. So yeah, if you all are happy with, then if you think this is helpful, keep in touch with us continuously. Thank you for joining with us.